The state of Illinois has been without a budget for close to 11 months, which means a lot of states' bills just aren't getting paid. And the cuts are starting to reach dramatic proportions, especially with social services. And before we dismiss it as just politics as usual with a governor fighting with the legislature, we have to acknowledge there are real people feeling very real consequences. Tonight, is the Illinois budget crisis doing damage to the St. Louis region? Stay tuned.
So we're going to do the show.
Stay tuned brings together local experts, journalists, civic leaders, and regular people to have tough conversations for a stronger St. Louis. Add your voice to our conversation, and you're at the table as we stay on top of current events and go deeper, bringing more light and less heat to the issues that matter. From the 9 network of public media in Grand Center, this is Stay Tuned. There's a budget battle going on in Springfield, and the residents of the state are the ones feeling the pinch. In the center are Republican Governor Bruce Rauner and a veto-proof Democratic legislature, which has led to both sides holding steady and unable to approve a budget for 2016. Days away from the legislative session close, both sides still seem far apart on the issues, and every organization that relies on state aid or does business with the state is left in limbo and wondering when or if the next check will come. Without the budget, social service agencies have made cuts, state universities have laid off staff, and public services like transit have been cut or in some places stopped altogether. Child care assistance eligibility has been trimmed by 90%. The young and old and everyone in between are feeling the effects. How can the state move forward? And is it already too late to save some of these social services?
And we have in the studio tonight with us people who see the effects of these cuts firsthand, the effects of this budget that we have yet to see firsthand. But before we talk to the folks in the studio tonight, we want to kind of get a good baseline update from Springfield, from Illinois Public Radio's Amanda Vinicky. She spoke with our producer, Justin Hartman, earlier today.
Amanda Vinicky, thank you for joining us. As the State House Bureau Chief of Illinois Public Radio, you cover the ins and outs of Springfield on a daily basis. On one side, you have the Republican Governor Bruce Rauner, and on the other side, a Democratic legislator. Both seem unwilling to budge in this budget battle. There hasn't been a budget for 11 months. How is the state going to get everything done with this budget impasse?
Well, when you said getting everything done, I guess that is the big question in Illinois. Will, in fact, the legislature and governor reach a deal and get a budget done for last year and for the new year that begins July 1st? Or are they going to have yet another year where there is no true spending plan in place? So on Wednesday evening, we did see the Illinois House pass a budget with just Democratic votes, although even some Democrats were against it and Republicans really pushing hard. The governor already says he'll veto it, so its chances in the Senate are uncertain. This is a sort of repeat of what Democrats who hold majorities in the General Assembly did last year. They passed a budget that's out of balance. They say they're willing to do revenue and want the governor to get on board. They say he's just trying to force them to wear the jacket for a tax hike, which would be, electoral suicide. And then the governor says it's Democrats who aren't compromising on these changes he believes will make the economy better. He says the tax increase alone won't help Illinois. It'll just bring Illinois back into what he's termed a death spiral.
The session is getting close to coming to an end. What happens if nothing is agreed upon by the end of the session?
Well, in a little bit of time, I'm going to be off to hear Governor Bruce Rauner, where I expect he will have some not so laudatory remarks for the Democrats, and we could see more of that ahead. There are rank and file legislators from both parties, from both the House and the Senate, that have been meeting in private, and they are discussing these quote unquote turnaround agenda elements that I talked about, basically the governor's plan for Illinois. And maybe we will see compromise. So there are still some folks who are holding out that it could happen. Otherwise, I think you're going to see a lot of, gnashing of teeth, wringing of hands, and the works as Illinois continues down this really tumultuous time that has hurt a lot of people, particularly the vulnerable and some of the state universities. You look at the regional schools that aren't huge, and that would be, for example, Western Illinois, Eastern, and Southern Illinois University. That they're hurting because the state didn't come through for really 10 months with any money, and now they're just getting a portion of what they're supposed to receive. And they say students are leaving, going to schools across the border, such as in Missouri.
Has anything like this ever happened before? What happens next?
This really is uncharted water. What happens may be a continuation of what has occurred now, and that is a lot of court decrees have continued spending in some areas. So we expect that that will continue unless there is some sort of upheaval in the judicial system, or one of these lawsuits breaks through, for example, one that's allowing state employees to get paid. Maybe that will turn the tide. Maybe Illinois legislators come back all summer, as they did last year, and continue to fight it out or what have you. Or maybe they go home. There's, of course, an election ahead in November, and wait to see if they can come back and get it done when some of that immediate political pressure is off. A lot of this is about a battle of wills between the governor and the really powerful Democratic House Speaker. Could be seen as a just very different points of view in terms of a path forward. One is more pro-labor, the other is anti-union, or it could all be just politics. I'm kind of guessing that it is a combination of all three.
Thank you, Amanda Vinicky from Illinois Public Radio, for joining us just before you start another day covering the end of the legislative session. Good luck today.
Thank you, Louis. See what he says. Appreciate it. You too.